it's that sort of time.
Awesome.
So, hello everyone. This is episode 18, I think, of the Blob Watch. And so tonight we've got a reoccurring guest, Hayran. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And we've also got now a special first-time guest, Tailed Feature.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you this evening?
I'm not too bad, thanks. How's yourself?
Not too bad, thank you. So how was
too.
I think, you know, part of this stream, I was thinking, you know, taking inspiration from other YouTuber who recently did a bit focusing on Scotland. Probably won't go into that much detail, but I thought it would be interesting just to talk about the SNP and the actual what's going on in the party at the moment, because I'm hearing that there is a civil war brewing between, or it's been brewing for quite some time, and it's sort of bubbling to the surface now between your glorious leader and your former glorious leader.
Yeah, they're arguing over the Alex Salmond inquiry, whether or not he was Me Too'd, and basically they think that Nicola Sturgeon withheld information or wasn't entirely honest when giving her testimony. I haven't looked into all the ins and outs of that kind of thing. I've just sort of sat at the sidelines and, you know, got the popcorn out, because ideally the party will split. It probably won't happen, but it's about the only thing we can hope for at the moment, unfortunately.
I mean, how is the when it comes to the press in Scotland, because I know you got the Scotsman and the Herald and the Scottish Sun. How is that being reported up in Scotland? Because one thing I find very fascinating with your situation is pretty much Scotland is a one-party state, near enough, and it's just interesting to sort of grasp how has the media up there been reporting it. So I know, like, my colleagues north of the border, their sort of position on it, because I see them on Twitter. I also get like update posts from email from conservative colleagues north of the border. But how's the media being reported on it? Because is it something that is being taken? I mean, to put it in other terms, are they giving it the same scrutiny? Let's say if Ruth Davidson was, Me Too'd, basically.
Right. Well, I get what the question is, but the media up here is basically sort of split into three camps, really. One is pro-union, so just kind of anti-SNP, sort of regardless. Then you've got the pro-SNP side, and then you've got the majority of papers in the middle who don't really care either way. And so there hasn't been, sort of from the more, dare I say, centrist kind of newspapers and media outlets and stuff, there hasn't been a whole lot that I've seen. They haven't made like a big deal out of it, mostly because, let's be honest, most of the media everywhere in the UK is just complete. You know, they're all just rags, really. But yeah, you've got the National on one side, which is basically an SNP propaganda machine. They're completely glossing over it entirely. They're not even, addressing that there's any problem going on, really, as far as I can tell. And then you've got the other side, but that's like the Sun, the Scottish Sun. I think it's the Sun. I always get the Sun and the Mirror mixed up because they're both just awful. I can't remember which one it is, but they're pro-union and they've just been like, "Oh my God, it's all going downhill." You know, they're just sensationalizing as always. So, but yeah, most of the middle ground papers and that haven't really been doing a whole lot on it. Just mentioning that something's sort of rumbling on in the background.
And I noticed like one of the interesting thing, and this is I've noticed with Nicola Sturgeon, is that when Scandal hits, her family is not too far behind. So like yesterday, I've noticed that with the I'll just find I just got the article up. I've just missed it. Yeah, so when it comes to the Salmond inquiry and the evidence around that, her husband is now somehow was involved with this whole affair. Is this because I mean, last time I was in Scotland was, I think, when was the independence referendum? 2014, wasn't it? Yeah. So I was in Inverness just before then. So that was the last time I was in Scotland. So and that was quite interesting, because one thing I noticed about the SNP is they're very good at mobilising and showing off the visual support for the party. I mean, I remember what I was in. I think it was like the Marks and Spencers in Inverness, and there was like a whole like group of young SNP activists just sort of came charging in there. Well, actually, I shouldn't say SNP. They were probably the Yes campaign.
Yeah, they're not synonymous.
Yeah. And I mean, they were. I mean, I didn't. I think I don't. I can't remember what they were saying, but I noticed, because this was like this was during the well, it's always sort of holiday up that people that don't really know that up that round area, you've got a lot of tourists sort of throughout the year. It's quite a touristy hotspot around Inverness, Loch Ness, around that area. There's always like touristy areas, and I remember they were pretty rude to an English couple when we were waiting in line to pay, and it was really funny, because it was the first time you could see like other shoppers and also like the staff who were working there looked pretty disgusted with them.
Yeah, I mean, this is here's where I admit my shame. I had a friend who was really into the Yes campaign and all that kind of thing. I was quite indifferent about the whole thing. I thought, I'm going to vote yes, just sort of despite the status quo more than anything else. I wouldn't. Well, it's no secret that I voted yes, but what I haven't said to people is that I actually went out with her on a campaign thing, delivering leaflets and stuff.
You absolute simp.
Yeah,
Proud of you, Dar.
That's your mother you're talking about. No, it's not really. No, so yeah, I mean, we were just delivering leaflets through people's doors. So I mean, it was a day out for me. I was just like, oh, that's fine, you know. But yeah, I was more on the yes side. I did vote yes, as I say, just sort of despite the status quo more than anything else.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a good feeling, sort of, you know. I can see why people kind of got wrapped up in it, and then obviously you're going to get the cringy LARPers or the Braveheart types and all that kind of thing, which, yeah, I've no time for them. And yeah, I've no time for people that are still going, you know, we were cheated out of this election and that kind of stuff. You know, we saw it repeated again and again and again with, you know, the American election and Brexit and everything. So I kind of distance myself from them now. I mean, partly just because I believe in democracy. They lost, you know, my side lost. The Yes campaign, they lost. So yeah, put it to bed, bring it back up, you know, in 10, 15 years, maybe, that sort of thing. But yeah, it is just getting ridiculous now. But having said that, the SNP are still polling ridiculously high. And I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
I think, I mean, we'll probably get into the polling a bit later, because there's quite an interesting thing with when you're polling, because I mean, what is the voter the general sort of figures on the voting age of Scotland? Is it about 3 million potential voters?
Yeah, 3.5, I think.
Yeah, 3.5. Yeah, so that's quite interesting because one of the I mean, whether it's like people who've done like market research, probably who've done market research or even polling, like for like Ipsos Mori or something. Because I've done Ipsos Mori before. The ideal number that you can get is about 2,000 people across like all ages, economic, social backgrounds, that sort of stuff. And one thing I noticed with Scotland is when they do those polling, they never target the 2,000 number, and I don't know why. Because the argument, the general argument behind it is, Scotland is slightly different because it's like polling a constituency, a smaller region, so you have to accommodate. And I was like, well, I don't think you really need to. I think because the problem is like if you look at polling even at the last general election, the SNP still had like an inflated number of about 5 to 6%. And then because like you look at the last 2019, it was they were getting about over 50%, and then when it came to the actual election day, they got 45%. And you can say, well, maybe it was in margin of error, but there was still quite a significant distance where there was an error. Like you should still see a 6 to 7% distance. And so, and my theory is, I think when they do the polling, I think they ask a lot of people in and around urban areas, and I think they struggle with more rural areas to get respondents back, which I'm not surprised because that's a universal problem with polls. It's really hard to get rural areas to respond to polling, and I should know because that's where I've done polling. It's really, especially farmers, it's really difficult to get respondents back.
And a large percentage of them are Tories. So
yeah, and because that was one thing that I found really interesting, because I was when I was doing this was 2017 election, and I remember hearing like on from within the Conservative Party itself that there was talk about several seats of Scotland, and one was Murray, which was at the time it was the seat of Angus Robertson, who was the SNP leader at the Westminster.
Yeah.
And from internal party polling, they thought it was going to be about a 50-50 or close, or not 50-50, but they were thinking their candidate would get 40% and the SNP probably get 42%. So it would be such a small margin of error. And then one of the things that was then you would see later is when there was more internal party polling, they actually got to more rural farmer people, and they had to really pin them down. And they said, oh, well, yeah. And it then discovered that there was actually a portion of people who voted yes, but also who voted for Brexit, and were really, really, I guess they were more cross about the EU than, I guess you could say, the referendum a few years beforehand. And so they would vote for, at that time, Theresa May's government because Brexit and all that sort of stuff. And so hence why you had these surprise results in 2017, because there was a lot of people that weren't expecting the Conservatives do so well in the northeast of Scotland, at least. I mean, that was quite surprising. That was quite a surprising one. But I hear that north of the border now, you've got the Scottish Labour Party are continuing to nuke themselves, and their leader, who I can't even remember his name now,
Richard Leonard.
Richard Leonard, that's right. He has resigned,
Yes.
Which I guess I was just thinking to myself yesterday when I heard the news of that, just in passing, I'm surprised he didn't do it sooner, to be honest.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't really followed the ins and outs of Scottish Labour because since the
I don't think anyone has.
Well, quite, yeah. The Labour Party in Scotland have been pretty much irrelevant since the independence referendum in 2014, and that's partly due to their allegiance to the Better Forever, Better Together campaign, and wanting everybody to vote no to independence, and the SNP were obviously, they were like, well, we're pro independence, but we're also just going to scoop up all the Labour supporters because we're now sort of more left wing than we're more Labour than Labour kind of thing. So yeah, they just kind of stepped in. The SNP stepped in and just scooped them all up. So yeah, the Scottish Labour Party have been pretty irrelevant for quite some time. I mean, I can't remember. I see, because we've got the Scottish Parliament and obviously we've got MPs in Westminster. I always kind of I get them mixed up. But I think Labour have only got, in Holyrood in the Scottish Parliament, I think they've only got something like 6 seats, which is mental. Because we were always a Labour sort of stronghold up here for quite some time. Although, I mean, having said that, even in the 70s, we were majority Tory up here, which surprises some people. It's really since Margaret Thatcher that things sort of went a little bit awry for the Tories. But yeah, the latest poll came out today as sort of election projection for the Holyrood elections in May. And the SNP are projected basically just to wipe the floor with everybody. The Tories are going to be decimated and all that kind of thing because they've got 31 seats at the moment in Holyrood, I think. However, I sent that poll to a friend of mine who's dyed in the wool Tory, lives in the northeast of Scotland, unsurprisingly. And he said, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Obviously, it's, we're a few months away from the election, so things are going to change. There's the stuff with the salmon inquiry going on as well, which could affect them. And he said, well, the last Holyrood election in 2016, the Tories were projected to lose 7 seats. Actually, they gained 16. So, it's really hard to judge these things. So just don't put your faith in the polls. But it was a really depressing map to look at because every single constituency bar one was yellow for the SNP, and there was one blue one, and that was in the southeast. Actually, it was I can't remember which one of the borders constituencies. I can't remember.
It's on border with Berwick. Berwick and
yeah, that's the one. I can't remember what it's called, that constituency.
Roxburgh and Berwick. I think. All
right, Roxburgh. All right, okay. So yeah, I always forget about that because Roxburgh is like, I don't think I'm trying to think if Roxburgh is the place that doesn't actually exist anymore, but they've just kept the name of the. They kept the name. Yeah, I might have that wrong, but it's something like that anyway. So yeah, but yeah, as I say, it looked pretty grim when I saw that map. I was like, oh my god, no.
We got it on screen so everyone can have a quick look at that map. As you said, it's basically the Shetlands and Orkney are Lib Dem, which is interesting because I would expect that if you're going to have an SNP wipeout, I would expect them to gain one of the two at least, because
they've been Lib Dem for a long time, and up until 2017, I think, or 2015, I think. So were the Western Isles were Lib Dem as well. That was Charles Kennedy's constituency, and that's a sorry tale if you know anything about that.
Yeah.
There's this sort of hate campaign against him, and he he was already an alcoholic, and yeah, ended up sort of drinking himself to death, and then after he'd lost his seat there, and it's the wonderful Ian Blackford who's got it now. So last time I was up there, yeah, there was vote Ian Blackford signs everywhere. There was like one Tory sign up, but every single lamppost and everything had an SNP insignia on it. So it was quite depressing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at some of these predictions. So I guess from what I can see, they're expecting the SNP to have like in every constituency, which is I think is a bit strange. And this is where you have a red flag, especially for any polling. Every constituency is going to have a 10% swing to the from. You know, so the SNP are going to have a 10% gain in every constituency, which is very suspicious, because when you do polling, urban areas and rural areas vote very differently, especially regional. Like Northeast Scotland will be voting very differently to the central belt of Scotland and vice versa. Yeah. So, and the problem is the polling that we've got here from Britain Forecast, which I've been trying to find the polling sample, like the amount of people who were asked and age and that sort of stuff. They don't usually provide age, but I just thought maybe they would. I can't find the actual sample size. It just says the sample size, and I can't find it.
Yeah, and these things are obviously, because we're still pretty far away from the election in terms of in terms of politics, it's a long way away. But yeah, it's just interesting, because the thing is, people they keep saying to me like, "Why do you keep voting for the SNP?" And obviously, I don't vote for SNP. But the main problem that we've got is that if Did Not Vote was a party, they would win like considerably. The last Holyrood election turnout was like 55% or something like that. So there's a huge amount of people who are either disenfranchised or apathetic or both. So
I imagine the older population probably don't vote don't vote as much in the Holyrood elections. I guess you say compared to your normal bog standard general election.
Yeah, whereas the Holyrood elections you can vote at 16. So
yeah, I mean that's another thing I was going to say. Now, one of the crazy things that, again, I'm surprised Westminster have allowed it, like not so much the 16 bit, but the fact that isn't it now migrants have a right to vote in Scotland?
Yes, you don't have to be a citizen to vote in Scotland. Prisoners have also been given the vote, so long as they're serving, I can't remember if it's under 1 year or under 2 years. Yeah, so you don't even need to be a citizen of the United Kingdom to be able to vote in a Scottish election. Yeah.
And so probably the black pill in all of this is the SNP have effectively copied the Democrat strategy in the US of just importing voters.
Yeah, one thing that tends to happen though is that migrants will come to Scotland, then go, "This is shit. There's no jobs. The weather's awful," all that kind of thing, and then bugger off to England. So, I mean, I don't know what percentage of them do that, but from I know it's anecdotal, but a friend of mine works. It's to do with migrants and human trafficking and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so a lot of the time he'll be dealing with people who have moved over here, or claimed asylum or whatever. And they basically, they reckon that they've been trafficked or something like that, or they're involved in trafficking or something like that.
Are you accusing the Scottish government of trafficking people?
No. Because this friend of mine, he sort of works. It's not it's not for the government, but it's funded by the government anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he does good work and that. I'm not criticizing him, but yeah, he was telling me that people just come over, and then when they're discovered to be involved in trafficking or anything like that, they run away down to England and never heard from again. So, whether that be they've been trafficked or otherwise, quite a lot of the time they just go, nah, this is shit up here. So it had nothing to do with Scotland. So they go to Manchester or London or Birmingham or whatever. Just because the SNP have pretty much just destroyed all the economy up here, and then obviously blame it on Westminster. The grievance party, that's what I call them.
I've just got one thing to say. Eject Scotland.
Well, you know what? Come May, if in the Holyrood elections that election forecast is correct, yes, I will agree. I will even help to eject Scotland.
Are you going to move to the better country, south of the border?
No, I'm not moving to Wales, no. No, I'll probably go down with a ship, to be fair, my ancestral homeland. I'll go down fighting, don't worry.
All right, awesome.
Someone's got to.
Yeah. Let it be.
Just be me and Dankula, just like, moon you bastards.
I can't wait for that shit post.
Oh yeah. That's gonna be fun.
Make the Kingdom of Fife a reality.
Yes, it's a nice little peninsula, so yeah, it'll be easy to make a little kind of border. It's got a naval base, so yeah, we have the Fife Navy.
I could endorse that.
Fife's a lovely part of the world, not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, just going on from there, what's with the Scottish Greens? Because I've seen. I
ask myself that a lot.
Yeah. So we go from importing voters to importing politicians.
Yeah. I take it you saw my post earlier today.
Yes. Yeah, that is. Okay, I'm just gonna. Because I promise I won't get too radical on the stream.
Your channel, mate. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of people coming to my country to back a movement to break it up. It doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, or it was the sort of the hint at Scotland is my home now, but I want to change it, so that it's more in line with what I believe. That kind of rubbed me up the wrong way. And did get into a little bit of an argument on Twitter with this guy who was saying that it's not a racist ad, and I was like, well, no, the ad's not racist, but the content is, in that it's your usual critical race theory, social justice nonsense, which is racist in the traditional sense, in that because they're like, we need more black people, more diversity, and like, right, you're just saying that black equals diverse. Well, that's a bit that's reducing someone to their skin color, essentially. So
this is the most diverse. Yeah, it's like, this is the most diverse advert, all black people.
Yes, exactly, which is racist. But obviously, you bring that up with people who support that kind of agenda, and they say, well, no, because we've redefined racism, and so it's not racism because it doesn't agree with our definition that we just made up. So yeah, it's a difficult sort of thing to get across to people, because it does sound mental. When I say to them, oh, well, when they say diversity, they mean this, and they go, so you're basically saying it's a dog whistle then? I'm like, well, no, it's a Mott and Bailey. They're saying diversity because diversity and equality and all these kinds of things sound good to the uninitiated, They sound worthy goals, how diverse. That sounds great and all that sort of stuff. But then as soon as you go, well, what do you mean by that? They sort of retreat and go, oh, well, we're just talking about, just diverse and equality. You agreed with equality, don't you? Surely you do. But actually, they don't mean that at all. It's all the postmodern discourse kind of stuff.
It's a very powerful linguistic tool the left use, and it's probably why the left probably have at this stage are in a better place than I think the right are, and probably remain to be until the right, in whatever form it takes in the future, learns to combat it, their principles on that sort of question of what do you mean by diversity. But I think the right needs to redefine what they mean, in the sense that, well, you say diversity, we say, maybe something like equality under the law, and then clearly define what you mean by that. Because I mean, if you take like positive discrimination, I mean, that's not equality, because you are actively removing X amount of people because of the color of their skin or their nationality. In this case. So but then that is what's classed as a diversity. And then you have your that psychopath. What's he called?
Is it Hamza Yusuf by any chance?
Yeah, Hamza Yusuf.
How did I know you were talking about him just by that word psychopath?
He's got. I'm convinced that left wingers are basically spawns of Satans, like Satan, and they're like actively like part of a Satanist cult. And I'll explain why. You take AOC, you take Hamza Yusuf, you take
Ash
Sarkar. They all have these bulgy, crazy eyes when they go off. Like, it's just not natural.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah, do you guys know what I mean?
AOC
is
like
the best example of that, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely bizarre, and I mean that tirade in the infamous tirade in the Scottish Parliament of the Lord General Secretary White, and the First Minister White. He probably didn't say the First Minister actually, because that's
it was within his remit of justice, I think it was.
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. And the sooner that people wise up to this and start saying, well, equality under the law, you sort of put the left in the position which they have to explain what they mean. If you say equality, and then they say equality, you say, do you mean equality under the law? They will have to then explain why equality under the law is racist, sexist, homophobic, upholds white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy, all that kind of stuff. And I think that the veneer will just fall away. As soon as you make them describe these things in their terms, it's just bonkers. And, I think the vast majority of people will go, nah, don't support that. Don't support that at all. So it's trying to play them at their own game, really. Well, just by getting them to be honest, but that's kind of the tricky part,
oh my God. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, well, it's not even being honest. It's just, calling a spade, I suppose.
Yeah.
Get them to just explain what they mean by the terms, because they're using it in colloquial terms when it suits, when it's expedient for them.
There's two huge problems with that. One, they just Mott and Bailey anyway. So they'll be like, I like this positive discrimination stuff, and then when you push them back on it, it'll be like, oh no, it's anti-racism, and then push them a bit further, and eventually they actually just state our position. But everything they do is for their, whatever the outer bit is. Is it the Mott that's the outer bit? They'll just push out there when they actually do things. When you argue against them, they'll argue from the Bailey, or whichever way around it is.
Yeah, I can never remember which way around it is either.
and then if you manage to catch them out on that in any way, you get ad hommed. then the whole thing just breaks down.
Yeah, because a lot of the time you don't even get that far because they go, well, you would say that because you're a white straight male. It's like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to. Now, this is probably one of my favorite SNP politicians, and he's really fascinating person. It's like, he should be in a zoo, and I should be able to go watch him, just do his thing. He's really fascinating.
I just hope he doesn't turn out to be black.
Yes, and I don't know if you guys who guess who I'm on about.
God, tell us.
Alan Smith.
Ah, right, the Beetroot Man.
Yeah, that guy, and also,
he was my MEP up until, well, Brexit.
Yeah.
Womp
womp. And I've been following him because he's so fascinating. He is he is a walking disaster area, but he's got like the he's got a bit of a Teflon about him, so because nothing really sticks.
Because he sweats profusely. That's why.
Yeah, God. That guy's he's amazing. During the last general election, because he was an MP for another seat in Scotland, which he lost in the 2017 election, and then he was reselected to stand. I think it was in Stirling.
That's right. Yeah.
And when he was there, he in like the live sort of debates with all the other candidates, he mixed up the constituency, and he referred to Stirling as his previous constituency, and the crowd sort of booed and laughed at him because it's like you don't know where you are. But that obviously didn't matter because he managed to win that seat pretty comfortably. So it then and he sort of had sort of gaffes and everything. He approached. There was something with this woman like filming from like a car park.
This is the list, isn't it? Your
list.
Name shall also go on the list.
Yeah, he basically was quite intimidating to a constituent. Which, again, imagine if a Conservative MP did that. Just imagine. Imagine if Jacob Rees-Mogg did that. That'd be. You'd never hit the end of it.
So she was. Sorry, on you go.
Sorry. Yeah, because I was just going to say, could you sort of explain what? Because I at the time I heard from a lot of like his cheerleaders that, oh no, you don't understand. She was ruthlessly harassing him, and it was he was under so much stress and pressure, and it was all so terrible.
I can't quite remember what it was that the woman in question. What the issue was, but she was basically asking him on Twitter every day, saying, "I've called your constituency office, I've emailed you, I've emailed your assistant or whatever it is, and I still haven't got an answer on this." I can't remember what it was that she brought up anyway, and I followed her on Twitter at this point as well. So I was seeing this sort of every day. And she was basically just saying, it's day, 41, and you still haven't responded to blah, 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 blah. So it was not harassment. Well, I suppose you could say tweeting at somebody every day is harassment, but, it was to do with, constituent matters. So... yeah, it's not really. It wasn't like she was being abusive or anything like that. She was very, very reasonable about it all. And he was holding I suppose what was it they call it? Sort of a constituency meeting where he would meet, his constituents, and what was it they call it? A surgery, that's what they call it.
Surgery, that's right, yeah.
He was having a surgery, but for whatever reason they decided to have this one outdoors. I don't know if it was a surgery and a sort of SNP campaign independence thing. I'm not entirely sure.
It looks a bit like, because he had like his rosette and like a umbrella with the SNP logo all over.
Yeah, and I think there was a table in the background with sort of SNP paraphernalia and all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but so she was sitting in her car filming him, and he was basically just like, "I know who you are. I know who you are, and you've been harassing me and all this kind of stuff. And basically said, yeah, you're on our list. You're on the SNP list. It wasn't like dissenters or anything like that, but it was that kind of thing. And yeah, I saw that and just went, what? What the hell? This is terrifying. I thought, man, if the SNP have got a list, I must be somewhere near the top, because pretty much all I do is bash the SNP. So that was a little bit scary. I did try to get her on my channel to talk to her about it, but she was just like, no, actually, I was quite perturbed by the whole thing, so she didn't actually really want to talk about it too much, and she locked her Twitter account for ages and stuff. I don't follow her anymore because, well, I just unfollowed a whole lot of people, and she wasn't really all that interesting, to be honest. But yeah, that video, I obviously just immediately downloaded it and went, well, I'm going to keep that. It's going to come in handy at some point.
Yeah.
But did you see the recent sort of Alan Smith gaffe?
I think I've got. This may be it.
It's not it, but that's another good one.
That's really good. Okay, what's the recent one then?
Oh no, the recent one was, I think it was last month. He used, well, it wasn't PMQs, but he was asked,
Oh yeah.
He was asking Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yes.
He wasted his question by basically saying, when can we have a debate about the use of fireworks? He's like, I polled my constituents, and I can't remember how many it was. He was like, 89% or something like that said that we should regulate the use of fireworks, and it should only be, the local councils that can use them and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it was 89% out of about 300 people or something like that. Because I know someone in that constituency, and yeah, she did not. She does not like Alan Smith. Anyway, so he asked this big long question: when will the government and blah blah blah? Can we use our time to have a debate around the use of fireworks and blah 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 blah? Went on for 30, 40 seconds or something like that. This question. Jacob Rees-Mogg stands up and goes, no, sits back down.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
So
but the best thing about the whole thing is that the use of fireworks is a devolved issue. So he was bringing it up at Westminster for no reason whatsoever. And he just looked like a complete sped because he doesn't even know that's up to the Scottish Parliament, not Westminster.
How were these people how do these people get voted in?
Because independence, that's it.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I'll just share the audio because it's not that long, and I mean, it is funny as hell. It's just the no.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I recently surveyed my constituents across Stirling on fireworks. We've obviously just gone through the latest Guy Fawkes night season, because it has extended beyond just one night of the year. And 89% of the people who responded are in favour of banning private use of fireworks altogether. Can we have a debate about how to regulate fireworks properly? Because these obnoxious antisocial behaviours that we are seeing increasingly do need to be limited.
Leader of the House.
No.
And of course, he immediately started tweeting out saying, look at the disregard for my constituents and blah, 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 blah. It's like, mate, we're in the middle of a pandemic, the greatest, well, the greatest upset in a lifetime sort of thing. And here you are banging on about something that's not even anything to do with Westminster. It's Scottish Parliament. Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, he is, and of course, one that thing I had up earlier, which was the one that just it amazed me. I mean, for an SNP politician to say this and have little to, especially in like today's climate, have no backlash from it. It was this one, and for people that don't know, like most parties and in the UK, there is like this sort of equality wing, and the idea is it's to get like people who are disabled and from ethnic minorities into frontline politics and be represented in parties. Conservatives do it, which is bullshit, and yeah, it's just disappointing. Very sad. What Trump would say, sad, isn't it? So Alan Smith, I don't know if this was a private conversation or but I think it was leaked emails. That was it. And he basically said too much of the party's option has been taken up by discussion of peripheral issues like Gender Recognition Act reform. And then Miss Smith, he added that women's BAME, and disabled members, conveners, and could be replaced by an advisory equalities forum. So, he sort of really chucked the equality wing under the bus, and he was sort of hinting, from what I can see from the emails, is that he basically said we need to drop them, basically, because they are a net negative to our movement.
Surprisingly,
it was dropping them from, I think, the NEC, the executive committee, because they were sort of distracting, and they were sort of an extra sort of weight, a hindrance to the whole point of the SNP, which is to gain Scottish independence, which I thought was quite based, actually. He's like, why have we got these people in here? What purpose do they actually serve towards independence? And obviously, yeah, that was a big deal, amongst the people that care. But as you say, he's a bit Teflon. You didn't sort of hear about it in the wider sort of the independent sphere, if you like, which is very surprising. You imagine that happened with like the Tories or Labour even.
Yeah.
The propaganda machine would be working overtime. But with him, a couple of articles, a couple of kind of negative comments and stuff on Twitter, he comes out and goes, those emails were, or that letter was leaked. It was to open a dialogue, and all the excuses came out and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, people just seem to buy it because they're the in party at the moment. Nothing they can do is wrong. The sun shines out of their arses, essentially.
Yeah, and
I did find it funny though. I did find it really funny. I read that letter and was just like, oh my god, brilliant.
I mean, he is really fascinating politician because I don't think he's like in all those gaffes. I don't like the one with like the woman, and I think that particular one there, and what was it? And getting like the constituencies mixed up. He never apologized for any of them.
No.
Because he knows there's no need to do it, because he knows that the brand itself is more powerful than the individual, and so you could have like really, really crap politicians. It doesn't really matter because people are voting for the brand.
Well, that's it, and that's the issue that we have in Scotland, is that you've got a significant minority of the population who are ardent, who are fastidious. They're very active when they are activists. They're SNP supporters and agitators and all that kind of thing. Their fervor for the cause and all that sort of thing is what sort of drives them, and that's all they do. And then on the other side, you've got just indifference a lot of the time, or apathy. I don't quite know what it is. And that's the problem. So when people say to me, stop voting for the SNP, I'm like, well, it's not as simple as that. We need someone with backbone to actually oppose them. Because when Hamza Yusuf was doing his whole, white people, blah, 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 all that rant that he did, it It wasn't like because that whole thing. I think it was 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Not his rant, but
Say Jesus.
Yeah, the thing that was going on in Parliament that day. It was meant to be a debate on Black Lives Matter. That's what it was. No one, not even the Tories, said anything that could be even misconstrued as
White
opposing
supremacy.
no one came out and said, well, actually, all lives matter. That's not racist to say that. I think this is actually quite divisive, doing more harm than good. Nothing like that. The Tories were coming out and, they were bloody flagellating themselves as well, going, oh my God, we're white and we're bad and we're terrible and that sort of thing. There's no one to vote for. There's no one to vote for. And I know people have every time I say there's no one to vote for, people say, oh, what about the Scottish Libertarians? It's like, right, okay. Their membership is growing. The last election, they got something like 1,200 votes. I'm not saying that, people shouldn't vote for them. You vote for whoever the hell you want. But let's be honest, they're not going to overtake the Tories. They're not going to overtake the Lib Dems even. They might overtake Labour at this rate because they're just, as you say, nuking themselves.
Greens.
Well, the Greens are just in cahoots with SNP. They are more extreme than the SNP when it comes to the social justice stuff. They are what we commonly refer to them as the gardening wing of the SNP, because they're just the same, but going a little bit more about the climate and stuff. But as you were saying about that advert for the Greens earlier on, where that woman was saying, we need more diversity, more black people. That's basically what she said. One of my followers went through our Twitter feed and said she never once mentions renewables. She never once mentioned oil and gas. She never once mentioned fracking. She never once mentioned solar, wind, or hydro. She didn't actually mention anything to do with green policies. And I said, right, now do the same thing with diversity inclusion. And he was like, no, that would just take too long, I think. So there's no way that the Scottish Libertarians are going to do any real damage to the major parties in Scotland. I mean, I hope that they do. I hope that they take, because they're a pro-independence party as well. I hope they take some votes away from the SNP, because every time Humza Yousaf posts about like the hate crime bill that's going through at the moment, a lot of people are commenting underneath it. We don't like this. I'm an SNP supporter. I hate this. I'm not going to vote SNP now because of this. This is not what I was voting for. I'm voting for independence. I'm not voting for this, Orwellian nonsense. So hopefully that does happen. Hopefully they do siphon away some votes, but I don't really think they're going to make a huge dent. And then the other alternative is this Alliance for Unity.
Oh yeah, George Galloway's party. Yes,
George Galloway's new venture.
I think, and I hate to say it, as much as interesting as it may sound, and then there's maybe a few based takes from some of the candidates that I've seen for the party, I have a feeling that it's basically like the Linwood, let's say like the Linwood party, if he was to ever create one. They just seem I think they're just a bit too crazy, to be honest.
There's an element of that. There's also an element of Brexit party about them. They're people of all different stripes. They've got left wing, they've got right wing, they've got socialists, they've got conservatives, they've got a big range of people, which is fair enough. But other than keeping the union together, there is no unifying policy. So like the Brexit party, is their whole point was to get Brexit done.
Yeah.
So that's done. They're now that's the one issue sort of sorted now, so they don't need to exist anymore. It's the same with Alliance for Unity, and they have said that they're not going to split the unionist vote, so they're only going to be in they're not going to go against dead set Tory seats and that kind of thing. But a lot of the time they're messaging people from Labour and stuff saying, you can join us, or how about actually you don't run at all and we'll run instead, so that we can, a unionist can take that seat, sort of thing. And I'm like, there's no way that Labour or the Tories are going to take a step back for George Galloway.
No,
even if it's not him personally, it's not going to happen. And that's the only way that they would actually have any chance of getting in would be if some of the major parties took a back seat, which they're not going to do. No,
that's not going to happen. And I think it's one thing that I find really interesting, especially with the unionists up there, which even you take because the Conservative Party, I guess you would say, is the Unionist Party, because it's
they're literally called the Conservative and Unionist Party.
Unionist Party, yeah, that's the official title of them. I mean, it's quite interesting because I don't know how. I mean, one thing I always thought with unionism as a sort of, especially after the referendum, when you had the clear dividing lines in Scottish politics, I always thought that arguing your political platform on just unionism was always a bit of a lazy take and a bit of a pointless one, because it doesn't really sort of say anything.
Yeah.
And especially when the nationalists were able to quite cleverly basically turn the union into the elites in Westminster, which is what Alex Salmond was able to do, and quite well. And it was and so that when you have the Best Together campaign was basically like a neocon neolib alliance of pretty unimaginative people, and the sort of, I guess you could say, the swampy or the blob, or whatever you like to call it, individuals working within the framework. And so one of the thing I always, and this is where I see I actually saw Ruth Davidson, where I'll give her credit. She one thing she did which was quite smart was, number one, she got rid of the Conservative brand and basically made it the Ruth Davidson Party. It's probably why she did quite well, I think. I don't know. That was one thing because when I was when was it? Yeah, when I was doing stuff internally within the party, I always saw with like posters online, like when you had like on folders for like each constituency, the Scottish ones, you didn't see like the Conservative name, like the actual like Conservative Unionist. You just saw like Ruth Davidson, or Ruth Davidson with such and such candidates. So that was something that really fascinated me, because it was quite clear that they knew the name itself was holding them back. And so I always think with the unionists, you need to sort of say to yourself, okay, there is a union, accept it as a given, and then you need to sort of move away from it. But the reason they sort of stick around it is because obviously the SNP are on the other side, and they want independence, allegedly.
Yeah, let's allegedly. We're not getting into that right now.
Yeah, allegedly. And so that I think the problem is, if you were a party opposing the SNP, you immediately, especially with George Galloway, he's just conceded all the grounds to the nationalists. He sort of entered their arena before he's even started up, and that's the thing. You need to find a way out of the SNP arena, and effectively set the rules to set the rules. So if you're going to create a new party to oppose them, firstly, as a suggestion, the first thing I would be looking at, I'm looking at education. I'd be looking at the state of the NHS in Scotland. I'd be looking at the COVID response. I guess you could do that's like you could look at the failures of that, and I would be bombarding it with that. I probably wouldn't engage with the SNP on the independence debate at all.
Well, that is the thing that I think most people are, and I don't just mean in Scotland, just I think across the board, people are they're either completely polarized or they're completely disenfranchised. There doesn't seem to be really any other option. So I would like a party to appear who are positive about things or talk about the positives of whatever cause it is that they happen to be for. So if it happens to be the union, fine, you be positive about that. Instead of grievance. That's the thing that just annoys me so much. Every party is about grievance now.
Yeah.
It's not about what benefits can we get from this, that, and the next thing. It's basically, oh, it's Westminster's fault. Oh, it's Brussels' fault.
The unionists are, the conservatives, a lot of those conservatives, and I will bash my colleagues with this because they are absolutely hopeless. They are unable to even get across the fundamental positive, I guess, or let's say like the fundamental, I wouldn't say positive, but the fundamental core beliefs of why the union is a good idea. Like why
you're basically saying there's no positives to the union because Scotland.
positives.
Yeah, all right. Come on then. I've been slightly facetious.
The union ended in '97, and so I'm, I've accepted that. I accepted it back then. So now,
are we blaming Tony Blair for this?
Well,
yeah. All steps from him.
I mean, Blair. We've gone from a union to a federal, like a federal nation. Really,
federal-esque, I think.
Federal-esque, yeah. So, I mean, maybe the Conservatives should call themselves the Conservative and Federalist Party or something like that. Be more accurate.
Well, I know what you mean, but the more that this goes on, the more that the more that I think the devolution was a mistake. Not so much. Because it's obviously been a disaster. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but I know what Blair was going for because Scotland was a major Labour heartland for so long. He thought that actually this is another way to sort of secure Labour, a Labour stronghold for even longer, and that obviously didn't work. Backfired a little bit. But the point is, I don't like this halfway house that we've got. I mean, it's either an independent state or it's not. You don't have to have a centralized government to have more powers. You don't need centralized government to be more democratic as well. Actually, to me, it's just added another layer of bureaucracy and complication to an already complicated system that we had within the UK. Yeah,
I think I think that was the problem. I mean, one thing I always thought when you look at the old debates, you go back to the 1980s when you had like the sort of debates and the early 90s with devolution. One thing I always got from those sort of era of debates was I think a lot of people wanted devolution as in like your local council, like your county level devolution. Yeah. And I think, I mean, suggestion for whichever, I mean, it could be the Conservatives, it could be Labour, it could be George Galloway or someone like that as a suggestion. You may want to say, okay, so my proposal would be if we were to win, or to get enough members in the Scottish Parliament, we would want to take powers from the Scottish Parliament and then sort of pass it on to councils. something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's always something that I've been in favour of. But no, just like Westminster, everything's got centralised to Holyrood.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up, every town had a town council. Now it's, you know, council areas, council wards. You know, so you've got, you know, Clackmannan Council, you've got Fife Council, Dundee, Angus, all these sorts of places, Midlothian, all these kinds of things. Whereas before you would have had the individual towns and villages and stuff. Obviously, it's cheaper to have, you know, everybody just congregate in one place. So, yeah, I was always in favour of that, and that's actually I love saying this to independent supporters, because for whatever reason, most independent supporters also want to be in the EU, which to me is just baffling. I don't understand. It's like, you know, saying, well, currently Westminster hold the lead. Let's just pass the lead to someone else. It doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, I get what they say, but I just don't agree with it. But when I say, "Oh, I voted for independence," they go, "Oh, right, so you're anti-Brexit then?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." To me, it's the same principle as Scottish independence. To me, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's about, you know, going your own way, and having your own autonomy and being able to make your own laws and all that kind of thing. It was the same principle. So I would have been a hypocrite if I voted against Brexit. But anyway, that's
15, yeah, I mean, 15% of what was it? 15% of SNP voters at the time of the Brexit referendum voted for Brexit.
Yeah, I mean, over 1 million people in Scotland voted for Brexit. We also had the lowest turnout of anywhere in the UK. I think it was 68%. I think.
Yeah, I mean, and just put that in perspective, you have to remember, you know, the Scottish Conservatives, Labour, SNP, Greens, Lib Dems, all of them were in support of Remain, and the only parties in Scotland which were in support of leaving were obviously UKIP at the time. I'm just trying to think what else.
And the Libertarians.
The Libertarians, and also like a few ex-SNP politicians from like the 1970s. And
when they were a right-wing party.
Yeah, the Tartan Tories. Actually, maybe the Conservatives just renamed themselves Tartan Tories just as a troll. A breakaway party.
Well, of course, the SNP back in the day, you know, I mean, formed in the either late 20s or early 30s. Yeah, they quite liked a little bit of Adolf back in the day.
The National Party of Scotland. Yeah, that was crazy days.
Crazy days. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I was going to say that. Yeah, I mean that it's an interesting one because I think one thing that I've noticed with the SNP, and this is like from all their councillors in Glasgow. Because I've been doing a little, just looking them up today because I wanted to see what's going on, because it's a very interesting state of affairs with that party, because you can definitely see open divisions, and it's like one of them who like quit as a councillor. She basically just said while leaving, "Oh, they've just become, you know, like Westminsterized. They look like Westminsterized in like Edinburgh, and they've just become like, you know, bourgeois."
You mean the pigs are looking more like humans?
Yeah, basically, yeah, they're going full cycle.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Oh, and the funny thing is, they would hate that, which makes it even better.
Yeah.
But anyway, Hayran, do you want to slag off Scotland for a bit?
I've said what I want. A Jack Scotland. So it's got lovely rocks, and that's about the only good thing I can say about it. You know, you've got the Isle of Arran, has the whole of the geological history of the UK on that one island. So that's the only nice thing I'm going to say about your country, Tailed. How do you feel?
That's fine. I would agree that scenery is at the moment, scenery is the best thing about Scotland.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you got like, basically all your mountains are either made by Scotland crashing into England millions of years ago, or they're big ex-volcanoes. It's great.
Yeah, that's why I really need to get onto that video of mine for my second channel, where I went up a big hill and then filmed a little bit of sort of a mini quarry type thing and went, "This is for Harry."
Yeah.
One day I'll get around. I'll actually get around to editing.
And then when COVID's over, we're gonna have a father-son.
Absolutely. You're going to tell me all about rocks.
Exactly, it'll be great.
I'll take you to the rocks, then you tell me all about them.
Yeah, it'll have to be Iron or Sky. They're the only good places I know.
Well, I'll maybe take you some other places as well, and you can tell me if they're good rocks or not.
I know where to find fossils in Sky and Iron there. That's the thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely up for that. That's something I've always wanted to do.
Well, there you go.
Sorry, sidetracked there a little bit, Tori.
You wanted to get me involved. We're moving on to geology.
We're going to move on to like Washington DC, but on
the
my final part. Every time I went up to Scotland, I always go when we went around the Highlands. I always used to go for the lochs, and I've been swimming in Loch Lomond, swum in Loch Ness. Very cold.
You're a wild swimmer, are you?
Yeah, I'm one of those. And when I was in Loch Ness, I think I actually got near enough halfway, and I thought, well, maybe I should go back. Just the thought.
I take it you mean across it rather than along it.
Yeah. God, no, I'm not that insane.
I was going to say because along it, that is a long way.
About 6 hours. Yeah, about halfway through. Probably should turn back now. I got about halfway, and the same with Loch Lomond, and I just go swimming in it, and also I lived in Aberdeen for a bit as well. 2000.
My condolences.
Sorry.
My condolences.
Yes, it's all right because it wasn't too bad.
Aberdeen's fine, really. I mean, it's they've got a weird accent, but it's fine for the most part. And I don't know if Harry would like that city because it's called the Granite City because everything's just made out of granite.
Yeah, they're all made out of granite. I'd rather go to the quarry, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, I know someone that was brought up in England and they moved to Scotland and they came up here and they went, everything's just so grey and bleak looking, like because obviously they grew up with like red brick houses down in England, and we don't really have a whole lot of that up here. It's all sandstone and granite. So they were a little bit depressed to start with, but they've made it their home. So
I mean, it makes sense, as I say. Most of your mountains are made of granite, really. So, well, the ones that aren't not made of granite.
Except the ones that are. Yeah. So before we move on to Washington DC, I've got a question for you both. I think I've already asked you this, Harry, but I'll ask again. Right. Beans on toast, yes or no?
You did ask me this, and I was a yes.
Beans on yes to that. Plus beans on toast with cheese. I have.
Yeah, we
that's fine. That's fine. Get wrecked, Aaron Telford in the chat. He's been following me around all the streams I've been on and saying that it's blasphemy. Beans on toast is blasphemy. And yet the things he listed that he likes are all bloody Italian.
Oh my!
Honestly,
this is a massive distraction. When I was up, we were at a hotel. And it was somewhere along the Scottish border. It was somewhere along the Scottish border, and we were staying there for like a week. And I went. There was like they had like these continental. It was like real continental breakfast. It was like real Globo Homo sort of like hotel, right? Okay. And their English, like their full English, was pretty pathetic. And I went there, and I was like, there was the no baked beans, and so I asked if I could have some baked beans with my English breakfast, with full English, because what the fuck, no baked beans. And so
that's sacrilege, to be honest with you. I mean, you need something moist.
Exactly. I mean, like they just had like tomatoes. And I'm like, what do I look like? Fucking rabbit or something? I don't. What do you mean? Give me tomatoes?
I would forgo the tomato and have beans instead. I mean,
that's right. Yeah. And then some like French tosser on the other end of us decided to spout off in French. I'll say, "Oh, typical Englishman with baked beans and everything," and call me a heathen. And he said it all in French. Now, unfortunately, my mother can speak French, so she understood exactly what she said, and a few stuff was said back at him in French. Which I asked later what she said to him, and she said,
"You eat frogs."
She said something. She said, "Oh, I just said he's a very unpleasant man," but I don't think she said that because his face went really red.
That's very funny. That's one reason to learn French, is actually just to insult the French back.
Exactly. I mean, and and so that a strange memory. It's one of my strange memories of Scotland. And and coming across a person speaking Gaelic for the first time. That was a very fun experience.
All right, and where was that?
That was another hotel. It was like up in where was it? We were is it Elgin? I might pronounce it in Murray Firth. We were up in
Elgin,
Elgin, and it was quite again a very rural sort of hotel, and with my family and everything. We went in, and we were the only people there in like the restaurant bar, and it was an English guy in the bar and everything. It was like, and he was saying, he looked very happy that we came in, because obviously he was quite bored because no one was coming in. And then suddenly this very old heavy stock chap just sort of pushed the door open. And he just started. He looked at us, and he I think he was a bit drunk. I don't know. And he then
quite possibly, yeah.
And then he was asking us something in Gaelic, and he was asking us something, and I remember I looked to my mum and dad and said, "Is he drunk?" And then the guy at the bar said, "No, he's asking you something in Gaelic." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
There's not much of a difference, to be honest.
No, and we said to him, sorry, we don't speak Gaelic. And he went, and he said something in English, but again, because the thick accent, we couldn't understand exactly.
Well, yeah, if it was in Elgin and he was from there, I'm surprised that there's not that many Gaelic speakers in that kind of area, as far as I'm aware, anyway. He may have spoken to you afterwards in Doric, which is the dialect from sort of the Aberdeen kind of area, that sort of northeastern part. So he wasn't like Avel Gaelic. I can't even honestly. Right, I've been drinking, so it's hard enough for me to speak English at the minute. But yeah, Avel Gaelic agad. Do you have the Gaelic? That's the thing that they usually ask. They go, "Come on, all that kind of stuff." So
yeah, it is scary for those of us that don't speak Gaelic, to be fair.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's pretty scary for me as well, because if I let on that I've got any, they suddenly start speaking fluent to you, and you're like, eh.
It's like when I start trying to speak French or Spanish or something in Spain or France.
Well, exactly. If you go up and go, "Uno biro, per favor," they speak back to you in Spanish, and you go, what? Okay.
Dos euros. Oh God, what's that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know why. I went on so many school trips to Spain and France, and language is still my worst GCSE.
Yeah.
Failed Spanish first time.
I did really well at French, but I don't remember any of it because it was so long ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Most useless things to learn because everyone just speaks English anyway.
I mean, the problem is, like, everyone here might say that I have a very sort of posh accent. I really don't. I have a very thick Somerset accent, but I have two accent defects. I have the Queen's English accent, and then I have the my thick Somerset accent. Which again, if ever you meet me in real life, you will hear the Somerset accent quite a lot.
Oh, so have you got your phone voice on just now? Have you?
Yeah, it's the radio phone voice. Yeah.
Right. So as soon as we're off air, I'm like, "All right, my lover."
All right, my lover. Yeah.
I'll start singing the words.
How do?
Oh, you got a brand new combine harvester.
And Oh god, no, there are plenty of people around. One of the greetings that we have down here is "How do?" That's the greeting you have around here.
Yeah, how do?
How do?
Yeah.
No,
It's
that's
basically like an episode of The Archers where you live, is it?
pretty much, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty much, it's yeah. Well, we are neighbouring MP is Rees-Mogg, so, and I've met him a couple of times. He's
We went round for luncheon.
lunch with that, and we went off, of course, fox hunting afterwards, and
then the sherry in the drawing room later on, and billiards.
Yeah, that's right.
Does Rees-Mogg's Somerset accent come out with the port drink?
This is the thing. I mean, people mock it again. He has that same sort of thing where he has a sort of he has a very posh. He's more of a posh accent than I've got.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does, and he's when we were at a party function, after he had a bit of port, he definitely did. You heard the R in him a bit, and it was like, oh,
he's a pirate.
Yeah. Well, that's the Somerset sort of R as well. So it's pirate R. It's
the thought of Jacob Rees-Mogg going, "All right, my lover."
Yeah. Maybe he might not word it in that sort of general way, but yeah, something like that. Yeah, he got a bit. He got definitely a bit like that.
Oh, you got a brand new fiscal policy. I don't know.
Yes.
I feel a new parody song coming on.
Oh no.
But did you know that Wurzel song is a parody anyway?
I did.
Yeah,
I've got a brand new pair of roller skates as the original.
Yeah, I did know that.
Oh well.
See, I know things.
Oh well, there was me trying to be a smart arse and it backfired as usual.
Oh, the Wurzels, they're really great. I mean, they were at the what was it? The we have like a cider fest down here that you always used to go.
Somerset.
Sorry?
That's just so Somerset.
Yeah, cider fest, yeah. And
in Bovington Gurney or something like that.
Yeah, and that they used to. I haven't seen them because I don't know if one's dead now. I think maybe one of them might have died actually. Come to think of it, but they used to go down there quite often. I used to see them down there, and that's the thing. If you ever come down to Somerset, because you're like two sides, you have dry and sweet, and dry is the proper side. Everything else is haram. If you didn't know.
most of my knowledge of that part of the world comes from Bill Bailey. So,
oh god, oh no, he's like Bath and North Somerset, and there's a bunch of bloody faggots. I don't know.
Oh, okay,
all right.
Sorry. Well, it's actually. Okay, if you look at the demographic of Bath, it's actually that's rather an accurate statement.
What do you have a census of faggots and non-faggots in North and South Somerset?
I think the 2000 census there was. Well,
I don't know. I just like Bill Bailey talking about how you could mix the Wurzels and Kraftwerk together.
Yeah.
So you get. or you get Kraftwerk doing the hokey cokey.
Yeah.
And when he said that, he says, I studied music in the 80s where a lot of institutions had to merge, and so that's why I went to Bovington Gurney School for Performing Arts and Owl Sanctuary. He sat there with, he says most of the lessons took place like this, and he's like pretending to write on a board or write on a piece of paper while also holding his arm out as if there's an owl attached to it.
I mean, he's entertaining. I mean, he comes from what's it called? Keynsham. That's nice little.
Oh,
outside.
There was an album named Keynsham, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's
Dog Doodah band had an album called Keynsham.
It's a very posh. It's very posh out. It's extremely posh. That is your Rees Mogg. Well, it's not Rees Mogg's area. He's at a little village called East Harptree. And I'm not doxing him because he's made it all public. So before anyone freaks him out, not doxing him. Anyway,
so Bill Bailey was brought up in a posh area. No wonder he's a classical pianist then.
Yes.
And that was pianist with a T on the end, I said. Just in case.
Yes. And no, I mean it's a very because you had like that like Macy Williams, you know, that little girl in Game of
Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, she comes from Keynsham, and so does who's the other one? Juno Temple, is that right? Or is that Taunt? I don't know.
I don't remember.
One of them. She comes from.
I know. Yeah, I knew Macy Williams was from the south west. Yeah, but
I didn't know that.
They don't mix with country bumpkins like us. Down in the swamp. I'm in the swamp part of Somerset. I'm like in the swamp.
Drain the swamp.
I'm looking at a swamp right now.
Oh.
I've been locked. I mean, you guys complain. I've been locked in a swamp for a year.
Get out. Go to uni.
I'm going crazy on.
Oh, I could go. Yeah, we could all pretty well. Tail's not locked in. Tail goes outside for hours at a time.
That's only because I live in the middle of nowhere, and the chance of me getting caught is very low.
Oh, there you go.
First lockdown, I walked out. I walked around like the swampy marshes, and what did I see? A fucking Avon and Somerset police Land Rover coming up the footpath, and I was, oh, for fuck's sake, what are you guys doing out here? And then they asked me, "Oh, is this your second walk or your first walk?" And I thought, well, this was my fifth walk. I'm gonna say I'll say my first, and sort of hope that they haven't seen me, and and they said okay, fair enough, and then I sort of panicked a bit and said, but there's some homeless people living up the way on them in the side and back. If you want to go check them out, sort of just distract away, and there was a couple because you have a few like campers, people camping, which is a bit weird, like Somerset levels. I don't know why. It's not the best place, but we'll move on to
America.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is again okay. I'll try and not be as spicy with my take on what's been happening.
Everything he's about to say, he wants to happen in Minecraft.
Yeah, everything I'm going to say will happen in Minecraft. Basically, I think the narrative behind this is probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I mean, to argue that there was some grand attack on Capitol Hill, which was like it was meant to achieve anything. I mean, that's like the one thing that I find really bizarre. Like the idea that these Baked Alaska and Nick Fuentes, and as much as I like the two guys who I'm not going to shit on you, Don or Staff Sergeant Sniper.
Yeah.
The idea that all of you guys turning up not armed in Minecraft and no military support or police support in Minecraft, and the idea you could just you go into the Capitol Hill and overthrow the government with hands. I mean, like the idea that the bloody shaman and the furry and Baked Alaska were like enacting the Munich Putsch Part 2 Electric Boogaloo is just absolutely insane narrative. And and this is not coming from like your fringe leftists on Twitter or publications. This is like mainstream CNN articles about these guys. I mean, they give them too much credit, and it's just crazy.
I'll put it this way: when Alex Jones is telling you not to do something, it's probably a good idea not to do that thing when it looks like it's something Alex Jones would do. Because because he was outside saying, "No, don't go in the Capitol. That is a stupid idea. That is not going to help us in any way." And you know, boomers went in anyway. Which I'm like, this is the thing. What, a cop died because he got a fire extinguisher thrown at him. Obviously terrible. Whoever did that should go to jail for as long as they can. The woman got shot in the neck, which I think was, you know, needlessly deadly use of force. You don't need to shoot her as she's going through there. Especially with 3 armed police like behind her as well. She wasn't doing anything. So it's just a needless loss of life. And for what? What did you gain out of it? Oh, great. Now Parler's gone. You know, Trump's off the internet completely. And people are like, oh, they're going to do that anyway. Yeah, they were, but you gave them too good of an excuse that they can accelerate it. Which, if your objective was accelerationism, you know, well done. But the rest of us that didn't want that are now screwed. So,
basically,
yeah.
And this is a funny thing. Like, I mean, with the, I mean, there's been several reports coming that like Antifa, like some, like two, as in, I think like 2 Antifa members were present.
Yeah, one's been arrested.
Yeah, one's been arrested, and I think he's been confirmed. And also the shaman guy is also been. I heard people accusing him of being Antifa because he was like at a few rallies back last year with Antifa. So I don't know, like him and the guy who stole the podium. There's public records actually on his, you know, registration and how he and his political registration. He's not even registered to vote. He didn't even vote in the last presidential election. So from what I can see, a lot of these guys are just petty opportunists, I guess you could say.
Yeah. It seems like it. I don't, like, you know, you definitely can't paint Trump's base as this. Obviously, no, I don't even think you could paint the whole all of the protesters like this, because not all of them went inside. Some of them wait. I mean, I know Don and Staff Sergeant Sniper waited outside. So
they waited outside. They were sensible. Nick Fuentes waited outside as well, because there was a lot of fake stories about him saying, "Oh, side with Baked Alaska," and they were like stealing Nancy Pelosi's hard drives and such.
And the shoes,
and taking a dump on her desk.
Lovely stuff. I mean, yeah, obviously don't do that. That is, you know, awful. But at the same time, it's quite funny.
Quite funny, yeah. It is quite funny. I mean, my initial, when I saw what happened, there was two things that I thought to myself. Like, the first one was, okay, this has been, you've got the constant gaslighting, the constant degrading of Trump people and a certain ethnic group who seem to be the hated lot of the media. I won't say on here because I don't want the stream to be given the boot, but there's been a lot of negative, a lot of gaslighting against, you know, conservatives and Trump supporters in America. And I think one thing I felt was you had a lot of people who were angry with that, and it bubbled over. I think what happened was, you know, my first thought was, well, okay, I can understand why people were angry because you have Black Lives, and I said this to Sargon, I think, not so long ago. I just said, you know, last year, the Democrats normalized political violence. I mean, they crossed the Rubicon by normalizing that level of political violence, and that's something which I think a lot of people realize, and maybe that's why a lot of people behaved in the way they did, because they just thought, you know, society had moved in this direction, i.e. it is socially acceptable now to go out and burn half the city to the ground. It's socially acceptable to go out and commit criminal damage. It's not, making it clear to everyone, it's not, before it gets clipped out of context. But the important thing is that what was the perception on the ground for them? And the perception on the ground for them was they saw the Black Lives Matter protests and the Black Lives Matter riots, let's say, because that's what they were. And the constant rioting that goes on in Portland with Antifa, which has been going on for 6 months now. And I think a lot of it was, I think maybe a lot of them foolishly thought that they would be treated, that their sort of spurg out moment would be treated as equal as Black Lives Matter riots. As in, they did. I think there were a lot who were naive enough that didn't expect them to get so much negative press and have such a pushback as it did. I mean, I didn't think. I mean, to be honest, when I saw it, I didn't think at first when they stormed. I thought it'd be there'd be like a small thing, you know, in the news channels. Next day, everyone would have forgot about it. And it was like, no, it's because it was blown out in such ridiculous proportions. And I watched Trump's speech. He didn't incite anything. He said, like, march on the Capitol peacefully. And then, of course, the big brains on Twitter and such said, oh, but he said march on the Capitol. And I was like, yeah, but Black Lives Matter said march on the White House. Democrats said march on the White House and on ICE facilities. I mean, are you going to arrest Cortez? Are you going to arrest Schumer? Are you going to arrest Nancy Pelosi for sedition? Because if you're going to do like a test trial with Trump under those rules, then I think you could lock up half the Democrats. And I think he's perfectly justified in doing it. You know.
Yeah, I don't. Well, don't know about blowing up the Democrats, but yeah. Well, it's just a mess over there, isn't it? Really. I mean,
it really is, and I don't know how. I mean, and the crazy thing is now is and this is where I would. This is where I would say the left, and it goes back to the old saying that we've got in our circles: is the left always projects, and so whatever they are, decrying in the media about, so like Trump's coup and everything, and his violent rhetoric and his assault on democracy. Well, you take all those three buzzwords that they use. That's what the Democrats and Biden administration are doing now. They've filled their capital with 26,000 now troops, and they've got Air Force divisions. It's absolutely ridiculous. The whole city is on lockdown, as in people cannot enter it for the inauguration, which is bizarre because it's all online anyway. And to make it even more bizarre is they've got troops sleeping in the Capitol Hill building, which I don't understand the need for, because
it's over 20,000 of them, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when it comes to garrisoning a town or city, you have, I mean, like DC has their own like barracks. They have their own barracks. They have their own areas. They have emergency areas if they need to, like have that's made troops on the ground. But when you see the pictures of them, these troops in the Capitol Hill, it's not a sign, or it's a symbol of occupation. I mean, from what I can see, it's a clear symbol of occupation. And what you've got is you've got like this really bizarre sort of situation where you've got like a feudalistic, almost French revolutionary sort of era of a feudalistic king separating themselves from the masses or from the proles, because the proles got too close to wiping them out in Minecraft.
Yeah.
And I think Josh just said in the chat there, this is a coup. These troops in the Capitol Hill, this build up, this is the coup. This is the attack on democracy. This is the unforgivable acts of assault, and this is what's been Trump's been accused of. This is what they're doing now. And then of course, I mean, and this goes back to, I think, probably what Academic Agent's been saying, throughout all this. He pointed out, they've got all three branches of the government now. Why are they behaving in this way? Because, like, if you've won genuinely, if you won, like, all three branches of government, why do you need to take out revenge? It's not like you lost. You in a win like this, you sort of ignore the opposition because of a win like this, surely. And it's like they're behaving like this is like I mean, when I saw the troops in the Capitol Hill, I reminded myself of that film Downfall, with Hitler in the Austrian artist, 1945.
Is that the famous meme scene, by any chance?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. The bang of the desk and everything. It seems like this. Everything, because one thing that was very core part of that film was it showed how everything was falling apart around them, and how slowly all like the generals and the officer command and class were all like huddled together in this underground bunker, and it was like. You could see sort of the society as it was because the Russians were coming in. It was all you could see how it was all collapsing around. And from what I can see, it seems like the Dems by having this build up and this sort of lockdown is that they're behaving like they're under siege from exterior forces, which it's just weird. It's just weird. It's just weird maneuvering.
Yeah, they are acting as if it's almost like the last stage of a dictatorship or something. Do you know what I mean? It's a little odd. Well, not odd, because I guess they have been fully in power for the last few years, even with Trump in the White House, because they managed to get an impeachment trial on him for no reason. They managed to get a second. Nancy Pelosi's calling up the what they called Pentagon, basically saying, "Can you ignore Trump?" Doesn't seem to have worked.
No, I mean, the coup perpetrators, they're clear. It's Nancy Pelosi. And again, like, why are they going up? I mean, he's only got a few days left now. Like, why are you trying to get rid of him? I mean, I know that some said, well, maybe this is their attempt. This is like the swamp attempt to kill off the sort of nationalist populist movement that Steve Bannon would say, like, so Trumpism or national populism, which is what the America First is that attempt to kill that off by the cathedral, by the swamp, whatever you like to refer to them as. I think possibly, but then again, I don't know why then they can't let this one go, and it's quite interesting because it seems that one side was organized in all this. I mean, like, have you heard the Jack Dorsey leaks from Project Veritas at all?
No, I haven't.
Basically, he I'll just see if I can find it actually, because it's quite revealing.
Dead air.
Oh, do you have anything to comment on Tailed?
I mean, I was listening to all that. I was just munching on some crisps. That's why I muted myself for a bit. And yeah, I largely agree with you. I've not really spoken about the capital stuff all that much, really. It was dumb. It was never going to do Trump any favors, but it was kind of inevitable, I think. As you said, it's political violence has been kind of normalized over the past 4 years by the Democrats. So, but that is a bit of a cop out, I think. I mean, although I agree that Trump did say, we're going to do it peacefully, blah 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 blah. He should take a little bit of responsibility because he did kind of rile people up over the last, since November, basically. Whether or not he was justified in that is a different matter. But at the end of the day, he did say, to be peaceful, that they're the party of law and order, all that kind of stuff. So really, the people that did it are the ones that are responsible. They need to take responsibility for their actions, all that good stuff. There's nobody else to blame but themselves. But as I say, we knew what the response to this was going to be, which is more. Well, it's just brazen censorship of certain people of certain political persuasions. Before it was, oh no, we're not doing that. It's only hate speech. Now it's basically anyone that supported that was happening, or anyone that supports Trump, you're a target now. And obviously the people that oppose Trump are clapping like seals over this. Never mind the principle of, free speech, because it's never been about that really for them.
But they're stuck in this paranoid universe that everybody. It's sort of like I guess you could say Reds. Well, I won't use the Red Scare because the Red Scare was actually real. They were communists. FBI files were revealed. But you take like the French Revolution stuff. You had like the Austrian army outside Paris, and the whole revolutionary Jacobins and the revolutionary government went into a frenzy because they thought there was enemy infiltrators in the city, and it was like all these royalists were like conspiring and everything, and it was sort of like mass hysteria, mass paranoia. Your enemy is your neighbor is an enemy, and all that sort of stuff. And so you can see the similar sort of spiral into paranoia by these people. Hence why they want them to be silenced, because unfortunately, saying a lot of people who originally I thought a lot of these people were just bad actors and all this. They don't believe that Trump is really like Hitler Mark II, and that Trump supporters are Nazis. But I think now they genuinely believe that he is a Nazi who's going to take them all out.
Yeah, that's the. It's almost like they believe their own hype now. But I do find it funny that they were saying, "Oh, Trump's a dictator" and all this kind of stuff. Like, wait a minute, you just had a democratic election that voted him out, and you've just managed to completely censor him on every single platform that exists. That's not very dictatorial, dare I say. It's not the. If someone said, "What's a dictator?" It's not someone that can happen to.
No, again, like if Trump really wanted to overthrow the government, I think that he, along with all the military advisors that he has around him, like General Flynn, probably would have advised him how to do it, and they would have done it. They wouldn't have sent him baked Alaska to arrest the senators.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I'm going to plan a coup with this completely disparate, random group of people that are going to actually break into the Capitol before I've even finished my speech.
While they are unarmed.
I'm assuming that some of them probably were armed, but that's just par for the course for a lot of Republicans, you know.
From footage that I've seen, I don't think they were because I know that DC have they have very strict gun laws, as in I don't think there is even like pistols. I think there's like some limitation on that. So the footage I saw, I mean, most of them just had like, some had shields, some had sticks, but I don't think they were like armed with guns at all. From what I can see, it just seemed like a lot of boomers with flags, to be honest. A MAGA hat. So,
but yeah, basically, whether or not they're bad actors or, you know, they were a genuine, you know, bunch of people who were trying to, you know, enact a coup, which I don't believe for a second. I think it was just devilment, really. Maybe they did plan to sort of disrupt proceedings just out of protest, and that's kind of fair enough. Like, I understand why people would want to do that. I don't agree with it necessarily, but yeah, to then tar, you know, all Republicans or all Trump supporters with the same brush, it's just giving them the excuse that they wanted, basically, to censor and persecute one way or another the dissidents, I suppose. But yeah, it was just dumb. It was just dumb, but inevitable. I think if it wasn't them, it would have been another bunch of you know, Republicans who were maybe a bit disgruntled over the whole situation. Maybe they were riled up by Trump's rhetoric around the election and how it was stolen from them and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that played a part, but at the end of the day, you know, you're responsible for your own actions.
Yeah, that's the important thing. You are. I mean, they are responsible, and I mean, and that's the thing. I think where in many ways this could as strange as it sounds, this could be a bit of a blessing in disguise, because okay, people, they're going to come down hard on all these people like Baked Alaska and such. They're going to arrest them. There's going to be you know, sedition and everything, but now is the chance, I guess you could say, for the MAGA Republicans to say, okay, let's do that for Black Lives Matter then. Let's do it for Antifa.
But again, yeah, it's not like they ever apply their principles evenly, is it?
No, and that's where I think the only hopeful thing that could come from this is the public, who probably already know this, but maybe those who are just, you know, not aware with the, I guess you say, the culture war, or the aware with what's going on at the moment, they may be able to, you know, they'll be able to point out, hang on a second, why is X group here given, you know, absolute, you know, sedition, basically being called like Al Qaeda, the next generation of Al Qaeda.
Yeah, it gives them far too much credit.
So much credit is given. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just I imagine when they, because the thing is, when they actually got into like the Senate building, like actually into the Senate floor, they were just sort of like wandering around taking selfies and such. I mean, it wasn't.
well, I mean, there were some people. I mean, Baked Alaska, did he not do some prank calls from Nancy Pelosi's office? And...
Yeah. That was because the live stream that I saw of that, it was like in the hallway, and the door was open, and there was like people in there already, because it was like, you know, the guy with his feet up on the desk.
Yeah,
he was already in there, and then Baked Alaska went in there, and he started like doing some things in there. They were sort of like taking selfies, filming out the window, waving at the guys outside, and then he picked up the phone. I don't know if he did actually prank calls. He said, "Oh, do you want me to phone Trump or something from here and see what our command is or something, like our next order?" And from what I could see, I don't know if they actually phoned anybody. Again, with like the laptop and the computer, I think it was a receptionist computer, and that it was left on. I don't know what was on there. I don't know if they took anything. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, that hard drives and laptops were taken. Maybe I didn't see it, but there's so many people. I mean, it was such a small room as well. And also, this is the thing, they didn't even know what room they went in, because by the time they got there, somebody already tore off Nancy Pelosi's name on the door. So by the time he actually got to that room, no one really knew what the room was. It wasn't until someone came in later and said, "Oh, boy, this is Nancy Pelosi's office. I just tore it off the wall." So
yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying that it wasn't. It's very easy to sort of go, well, they were just kind of wandering around. I mean, I don't know if you saw the video of the. I'm not entirely sure where in the building it was, but there was a whole mob of people pushing against the Capitol Police Force, and yeah, you got to see one of the police officers being crushed between the people in a door, which looked rather painful. So I mean,
I get that. I mean, I think one thing I know. I mean, this is where it comes to debate. Was like, well, okay, outside the building, they allowed the Trump, all the protesters to enter the building, because there was footage of the police lines sort of allowing them to. Well, the doors were left open and they just sort of stood aside, maybe because they didn't have the numbers. And so I don't, because I know that there was multiple entry points into the building, so I guess it depended on which side. But
well, I mean, at the end of the day, they need to protect themselves. So
yeah. I mean,
if they were, they thought, well, tell you what, there's only 3 of us and 400 of them, then we should probably retreat to somewhere else. There's no point in engaging them. So
yeah, I mean,
it's not like they were like, yeah, just come in, guys. It's not that's disingenuous for people to say that the cops let them in. It's not quite that simple.
I think when I said let them in, they didn't actively. I mean, it wasn't like a proper police wall of like just stopping them in some of the clips that I've seen. Like in the Baked Alaska live stream, you had this really bizarre situation where you had all like the protesters walking up and down the hallway, and then you had a few cops, by themselves, also walking around with them. So that was like, because obviously they were sort of telling them, well, go here, you can't go in here, go up this way. I think they were trying to lead them out the building. I think that's what they were trying to do. But I mean, it was you when it comes to, I mean, the police officer who was pushed, I don't know what part of the building that was. If it was the I don't think it was in the same bit that Baked Alaska was in, because that was the one.
That's the other thing. It's a massive building.
It is it was a massive.
And obviously they were trying to get in from every angle. So
yeah,
the police had to decide which area was the best one to sort of to protect. Because if a whole lot of people are just kind of like ambling towards the building and going, yeah, we're just gonna have a walk through it. Like the people that kind of went in the main entrance, yeah, you're right. They stuck within the ropes and everything, and they just kind of wandered around, and we were like, oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah, you sort of cut your losses and go, well, they're not causing any problem, or they're less likely to cause problems than the violent mob that are around the back or whatever it was, that are trying to push their way in. So obviously you send all your police there instead.
Yeah. And I mean that I think round the back, I think that's where the accusation of the whole Antifa stuff and everything. I mean, to be honest, I think from all I can see, I think there's only 2 people who are confirmed Antifa, which is probably, I mean, there may be more. There may, who knows? But I think what happened really was that there was just, usual thing. Cops. Both protesters, I think.
Oh, and he's gone. F's in the chat for AI Shire Tory.
Oh, hello there. Sorry, I just went.
He did.
Briefly.
Disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, so what I could see, from the from the rear of the building that we were saying, there was a police line of proper riot gear, and they were forced back. And I think, again, as you said, I think it was like the fact that they weren't. The risk was that some of the protesters end up coming up behind them, and so it's a universal thing with policing, because again, like in this country, if you're in a situation where you're a copper and you've got a riot going on and you have potential rioters, protesters, whatever behind you, then you can't really protect yourself. As you said, you can't really protect yourself, so you then have to retreat further and further into the building. One thing I do find ironic is that do you remember obviously the Black Lives Matter, and then you had like the debates in Congress, and you had like the Democrats saying, oh, the whole police and the whole defund the police movement. A lot of the Capitol security, from what I understand, was redirected, and so a lot of the security measures because again, a lot of people were surprised that they were able to get in that far inside the building, because I didn't think they would be able to even get into the Capitol, maybe on the steps or something, but not like in the building itself. And a lot of this, from what I understand, a lot of the security and the police presence in the area wasn't was actually changed due to local political decisions. Hence why it might have been easier for them to again enter the building. I just find it very strange, because I didn't see how they could enter. I mean, if they were armed with guns or something and they were like threatening, I could see why they would be allowed in. But
what I heard, and take this with a pinch of salt, because it is just something that I heard, so I don't know. I can't claim that it's the veracity of this claim. But the thing that I heard was that it was partly because it was completely unexpected. The Capitol Police and the police, sort of the people that were sort of I suppose guarding the event, Trump's event that was going on, they did not expect that kind of behavior from Trump supporters. They were just kind of like, well, it's just kind of like another day. Maybe they up security just a little bit because they reckon that there's going to be more people around than usual, but weren't expecting anything like that. So again, it comes down to that age-old adage of you shouldn't attribute things to malice or malevolence that you can attribute to incompetence.
No.
So if they if Trump was really wanting to incite something, I think he did a really piss poor job of it. He could have said to everyone there, go and storm the Capitol building just now, and I'm sure that most of them would have said, nah, that's taking it a bit too far. I mean, I don't know how many people were at this rally. I don't know if it was like 20,000 or 50,000.
I don't know the number either. So
the point that obviously the media don't focus on whatsoever, and I think people on I hate using this, but people on our side of the argument have neglected to focus on are the fact that the vast majority of people there were peaceful and weren't engaging in any stupid behavior like storming the Capitol. It was a minority of people, but no, obviously the people on the other side, they're just like, well, this just demonstrates what we believed all along, confirmation bias. These people are all awful and need to be censored at all times just because however many 200, 500 people out of however many thousands of people did a bad thing, and which is quite funny, because obviously when people like us say, the Black Lives Matter protests led to billions of dollars worth of damage to private property and what have you. They always say, "Oh well, it was only a minority of people in the protests that were involved in that." It's like, well, you don't offer the same concession to the other side then.
No,
all right. So, color me shocked there.
And of course, like the reaction to it has been, well, in Jack Dorsey's own words, this was going to happen regardless whether or not there was going to be storming, because we all knew. I think we do. Are we all in agreement here that when Trump, the day that he ceased to be the president, and Biden takes over as president, the next president, that Twitter would, and I'm not sure about Facebook, but at the time I was certain Twitter would ban his account. That was a certainty right back along for me. The moment he left office.
I hadn't given it that much thought, but I thought at the very least he would either be, sort of indefinitely suspended, or would have various different kind of algorithms placed upon his account which would stop him from getting his information out there, whether it was bots to remove followers or shadow bans, all that kind of stuff. I knew some sort of jiggery pokery was gonna happen, but yeah, I was actually surprised that they just went no, ban.
Yeah,
I was a little bit surprised. I mean, I suppose in hindsight, no, it wasn't. But I don't know if there was just that little bit still inside of me going, I don't know, that they're not that bad. They're not really going to do that, because deleting his Twitter account is going to incite people even more than anything he could possibly say on Twitter. But no, of course, no, they don't see things like that whatsoever because they're morons.
Yeah, I mean, well. I mean, it's almost like they're asking for more trouble. As when I say they, I mean the new administration and the Democrats and as a whole. They seem to be, they're not being the responsible party in this, because that if they're not making any efforts to come together. They're not making any efforts to. I guess being honest and fair in what because I mean I know that Biden, he said like up in the run up of the election, he said, oh yeah, the Antifa rioting is wrong and we're going to stop it and they shouldn't happen, and that was a bit of a surprising one, but again, election period, so everyone's tune sort of changes then, but I think the sort of vengefulness that we've seen from them. And we've got this got this image up here, and I think just sort of sums it all up with the sort of social media moguls that we have, Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and the rest of them, and like Google and all that, and Firefox as well. There's been the latest one. They haven't just gone after Trump supporters and like people within the Trump network. They've gone after like milquetoast conservatives and libertarians like Ron Paul.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like the communist purges, isn't it? Once you get rid of the bourgeoisie, once you get rid of all the intellectuals and the aristocracy and everything, who's left? You go, this guy owns 3 cows and a pig and 4 acres of land. Well, that's more than most of us. So he's technically a landowner. He's technically the bourgeoisie. How far does it go?
Yeah, it's amazing because obviously now Parler. That one did surprise me because I didn't think Google would. I didn't think that would be a direct hit because it's not within the it's not within their echo chamber. So that's why I was surprised with Parler at least. I mean, I know everything is, the latest one to move on to was Gab, but Gab's just, hasn't got the server space, and it's just not working for me. At least when I try and go on there, and it's pretty bleak, to be honest, because I think what you have is that a lot of people have come to the conclusion here is, well, if that can happen to President Trump, if it can happen to long-standing Republican politicians, it can happen to like anyone, like in any country now. I mean, in theory, you could wake up tomorrow and like half the UK government ministers, their accounts have either been muted or suspended.
Yeah, that might not be a bad thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, it might not be a bad thing. But I mean, but we've had some pushback from it. Like Uganda was quite a nice one, because they had their elections a few days ago, and during the election period, they just outright shut down the internet or social media.
I mean, that's a bit extreme, but there was part of me that was like, yeah, it was quite totalitarian to do that, but at the same time, the reasoning about social media influencing elections and the hegemony that they have, I was like, yeah, I can get behind that to an extent, but again, it sets a dangerous precedent, because then you go, well, election season is 3 months long or 6 months long or something. Like, do we turn the internet off for that entire time? It gets a bit murky.
Yeah, like how long election season and everything else, and but I thought the response from Jack of when that happened was like, this is dangerous. You can't censor people in a mature democracy like this. And it was like, oh, yeah, okay. And I think what was the response from it, because it was the mask really slipped of the fact that there is the hypocrisy is just, it's gone over their heads. It's all gone over their heads. And so I thought that was quite funny, because the actions from the Ugandan president, I think, was maybe not intentional, but it produced some interesting results, to say the least, from the likes of Jack Dorsey, because he's really been going off on one, more so than the rest of them, because he's been like actively going out there and saying. I was just mentioning this to Hayran, the Project Veritas leaks. He's said this isn't just about one account, aka Trump. This is about a long-term strategy. So this censorship, this more and more people will be removed from social media, from his social media platform at least. So the blockings and the sort of account removal and the suspensions will continue long into the future, according to Jack Dorsey at least.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's almost trying to do damage control, because obviously I think Trump was probably keeping Twitter afloat for quite some time. So banning him probably wasn't the best financial decision that Jack Dorsey's ever made. So I tweeted out the other day as well. One thing we could be certain about is that Jack Dorsey isn't in this for the money. Because the share price is just completely tanked as soon as that happened, because you've basically just eliminated an entire part of the Twitter economy, which is Trump's reply guys and all that kind of thing. So it was almost like he was trying to do damage control, or I suppose he was trying to justify it to himself. But yeah, it didn't land for me. But I've got a different politics to him, so it's not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen now, like the latest thing is. Have you heard of the My Pillow guy at all, Tailed?
I've seen people talking about him, but I have no idea.
Yeah, he's basically this. He's a mega donor to the Republican Party, and he's a massive Trump supporter. And he's just come from the White House, and there's been photos of him walking in there with the files, some files that he was going to presumably talk with Trump about. And in that file, he was talking about like a strategy to impose martial law before the inauguration. Yeah, whether or not, again, you know. I mean, people are saying, "Oh, this is this is an attempt to impose martial law and overthrow the democracy and everything." It's like, well, this is a random donor just walking in, meeting with the president. It's probably not really means as much as one would think. I mean, to be honest, it looks like he's holding it up to the camera, the journalist in the background. Like, and he's actually pointing with his finger with like a coffee cup in his hand, just like pointing at the line which says like the martial law bit, and China, and just like talk about China and Iran and such. So I think he's just doing a bit of shit staring, to be honest.
Oh, possibly, yeah. I mean,
I think that's all. I mean, if you're thinking like Trump and his supporters, what have they got left now? It's just to cause as much.
It's basically where the Democrats were in 2016. Yeah,
I think Trump, they're causing as much mischief for the incoming administration as possible. I think that's what they're up to. I tell you what, one thing that, because we'll probably finish up soon, but one thing that Trump should do is he should pardon Julian Assange, he should pardon Snowden, and he should also pardon the Silk Road guy. What's his name? Ubrick. Is it Ubrick?
I'm not sure.
He was the guy
himself as well.
Oh, but yeah, probably. Yeah, pardon. I don't know if he needs to pardon himself because they can't do him for sedition.
They'll try.
Yeah, I mean the law is quite. I mean, this is the thing. Like all the lawyers, even the like Democrat ones, like were saying like. I saw on Sky News today. One of them just said, "Yeah, what he did was reprehensible, but on a legal perspective, no, they can't do him for sedition." And because in the speech he gave, he didn't say, if he said like march into the Capitol and kidnap the senators or something, or arrest them and disarm the police, then maybe you could say that's sedition. But no, I mean, I don't think even the Democrats could just redefine a law.
I know, like but I think they'll just throw everything and see what sticks.
Yeah, they could do. The problem is that the only thing that you could get from that is you could, then as a count, this would be from obviously the Trump's legal team, is they'll say, okay, well, what about Alexandria Cortez, AOC on this state, or what about Nancy Pelosi on this state? Because I think if they go down that route, there's a risk that a lot of Democrats could also face possible charges of similar seditious acts across the country. So I mean that's one thing. That's another thing why I don't understand why the Dems are pursuing this in that sort of way, because I just think they're opening themselves up to more problems than it's really worth for them.
Yeah, sorry, I just found out something, harking back to what we were talking about earlier, about the Scottish Greens.
Yeah.
So, they posted that advert for, what's her name, running for MSP or whatever, and I retweeted their thing saying, remember when the Scottish Greens were insufferable hippies? Well, now they're insufferable racists or something like that. They've blocked me. I've been blocked by the Scottish Greens. Excellent. That's
that is. Oh yeah, I see. Its tweet is unavailable. I'm just gonna go on their Twitter just see if they. And then you got Patrick Harvey, who's looking in the camera. He's got crazy eyes as well, Patrick Harvey.
Yeah, and so does the co-convener, what's her name, Maggie Chapman as well.
Yeah. Oh, I know. This is the one that said Churchill was Ross Greer. Is it Greer?
Ross Greer. Oh my God, he is
that's
such a knob end. I hate him.
It's a little prick, isn't he? That one.
Yeah. I've in fact, I wonder if I can find. I saved a tweet of his. Let me see if I can find it. I took a screenshot just in case. Oh God, where would it be? Not there, obviously. Sorry, I'm just looking on my. Is it in here? Oh, there's Alan Smith stuff I found. It's Alan Smith stuff. Oh, there we go. So Ross Greer. This is on the 2nd of November, 2020. Shell, the petroleum company, they tweeted out, "What are you willing to change to help reduce emissions? #energy debate." And it was a poll. Ross Greer retweeted that, or quote tweeted that, saying, "Can't wait till we seize your assets and prosecute your executives." Not communist, though.
Well, yeah, it's green on the outside, red in the middle, like melons.
Goddamn watermelons.
Yeah, goddamn watermelons. Oh God. I do remember him now because he was the one that him and Piers Morgan, that early morning screech with each other.
Yeah.
That was entertaining as hell. I mean, to be honest, if I was a Scottish Green supporter, I would be. They just seem really sad. Like not like sad as in I just feel very sorry. I feel a bit pity because they're like a sort of really strange sort of like mini-me double act with the SNP. It's just.
Well, I know someone that ran as a Green candidate. I can't remember if it was MSP or local council or whatever. I used to do some odd jobs for her, and we were sort of discussing politics. Well, she was lecturing me essentially, and I was just kind of smiling and nodding and stuff. And then because she was talking about how she was, running and everything, and she said, "You're going to vote for me, though, aren't you?" And I went, "No." And she was really taken aback, and she went, "Well, who are you going to vote for?" And I says, "Well, it's none of your business. It's a private ballot for a reason." The way she was talking, it's like she's never ever had to engage with someone that disagrees with her. I mean, she's in her 60s, I'm sure, but it's that kind of middle class bubble. They've never had to deal with people outside that. And they're like, well, of course, everyone's going to have an electric car and this kind of stuff. And you're like, well, everybody can afford it. Well, that's why we need to completely restructure everything to support that. And I'm like, yeah, well, again, I know what you're getting at, and I know you probably mean well, but it's not really what most people care about at the moment. Most people are, just trying to get by day. Well, again, that's something that would all be fixed as soon as we implemented our policies. And you're like, well, I don't believe you.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we had that same. I had that same debate with my local Green candidate like back in 2015, and it was basically it's okay. Well, what environmental policy are you going to do? Oh, we're going to build like lagoons, like hundreds of like these hydroelectric lagoons, and it's like, okay, well, what about the wildlife though that's unique to our swampy marshlands? It's like, oh well, we'll have to reassess, maybe move them along. It's like, really, you're going to go into every single bog and just pick up like a 1,000-year-old snail and move them somewhere else? Like, and it's like, yeah, that's basically their plan to do that.
I'm back now, by the way. Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I was saying Tailed was just. I think you've been blocked, haven't you, by the Scottish Greens now?
Yes, I have.
Oh, good lad.
Yes,
Good
well done. I say, have you been blocked by any SNP lot at all? I imagine maybe. Imagine you might have been, but
not that I'm aware of, actually. I mean, their actual the actual main account has got so many followers that I don't think they actually look through all the replies and stuff. I don't often reply to them either. I usually quote tweet them. But that was what I did with the Greens. But obviously they're a much smaller party, so they must have looked at what I was saying.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so, actually. No. I mean, I don't generally abuse people on Twitter. So yeah, I mean, other than sort of disagreeing with them, yeah, I usually just shit post, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe if I went through a whole load of, I just kind of follow like the main people. Like, I mean, I follow Sturgeon. I think I followed John Swinney as well, and the main account. And I follow the main, like the Greens, or I did anyway. The SNP, the Scottish Lib Dems, the British Lib Dems, the Tories, the Scottish Tories. I kind of do that rather than go, I'm going to follow individuals. I don't even follow my own MP or MSP or anything like that, because I don't really care what they have to say, to be honest. I'm more interested in what the party policy is rather than them saying, we fixed a lamppost and, such and such a street. And I'm like, about fucking time. Yeah. Because that's what local politics is for me.
Yeah, that is the essence of like what local politics should be, and that's why, like, yeah. Again, I think the further, I think when you become quite entrenched, whether it's like in Westminster or Hollywood, the further you get from local politics, and so it's quite interesting, because I think that's where you're seeing, like, I mean, you said what we said earlier with the SNP. I think support for them is. I think that their support is chipping away in some areas. And I think a lot of it is down to one thing, which is one big thing that all governments face, like all political parties in government, is just fatigue of that party. There is always an element of fatigue. There's always also an element that, the longer they stay in, the more sort of out of touch they can get. Of what, like, the problems on the ground. Again, it'd be nice if there was a competent and sort of well organized opposition party that could actively take them on and own them in debates. I usually find with, like, Question Time, listening Question Time, it was usually the audience that would sort of own the SNP politicians, but also Labour and Conservative ones as well. It used to be the audience that would do the sort of put downs.
Yeah. I stopped watching Question Time round about the Brexit time, because it just got more and more infuriating. And that sketch by Harry Enfield and Paul Whitehouse that does the pastiche of Question Time is just perfect. That just sums it up absolutely perfectly.
The Tories, the Tories.
Yes, the Tories. I'm going to have to stop you there. If you just let me finish. The Tories. That is just on point.
Yes.
It doesn't have
I think with the Conservative equivalent was like the socialist Corbyn sort of stuff.
Well, I think Jimmy Carr was, well, it was Paul Whitehouse doing a Jimmy Carr at the end who just said bum cheese. Like,
he said, yeah, because he's the token comedian, and he just goes, oral sex.
That's the one, yeah.
I say I'll probably wrap it up now, because I think we've actually talked through the topics that we're going to talk about. So I'm just checking the list. Yeah, we went through the Alan Smith, my favourite MP of all time, comedic value
for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons. Oh, I was going to say that one other weird thing. I always do have like an interest, like SNP politics. There was one. Her name was like Tasmina.
Oh
something.
yeah.
She
for,
was
Perthshire and the Ochils, I think it was, wasn't it?
something like that. Yeah, she was a member of Conservative. Was it Labour, Conservative, and then SNP?
Yeah, she was obviously just a career politician.
Yes,
and also highly corrupt.
Yes, allegedly.
Yes, allegedly. In Minecraft, she was
in Minecraft corrupt. Yeah. Again, she was a very interesting. She was like tipped to be future leader as well, which is like
which was
and now she's disappeared. Like they've just all disappeared.
Yeah, it's the same with. I can never remember what her name was. Margaret somebody.
Thatcher.
No, I don't think she was in the SNP at any point.
Maybe in the 1930s SNP.
Yeah, she was. I think she was finance minister for a while, or something like that. And yeah, there's all sorts of scandals. But as you say, the SNP are just Teflon. Because I saw a tweet today. Actually, I'll see if I can find it again. Because someone took a screenshot of it recently and posted it. It was on my timeline just a few moments ago. Let's see if we can find that. Here we go. Obviously, this is someone with loads of Ireland flags and stuff in their name, and they've got the Celtic football club thing because SNP supporters tend to be Irish for some reason. But let's not get to that. That's an entire stream on its own. Most of us don't read the supposedly unbiased newspapers anymore. And if Nicola Sturgeon punched my granny to death, I'd still vote for the SNP. That's what we're up against.
That's Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, it's just how do you compete with that? How do you compete with that amount of dogmatism? It's just fuck the SNP. That's.
I was just seeing if I was actually I just had a quick look on your timeline and see if I could find it because yeah. I can't find it. I got a lot of stuff on here at the moment, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of. I mean, actually, I was just going to ask you before we get. What is the black saltire? What's that about? Because I see that a lot in some of like nationalists that the more rowdy ones, the ones that get a bit spicy in their own takes on certain things.
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. I imagine it's meant to be. I mean, it's to do with nationalism and sort of the. It's sort of the opposite of the Britain First types and all that. In that they're like, oh yes, our Scottishness is being eroded away and all that by the English. So it's more of an extreme sort of nationalism. They don't see themselves obviously as being a mirror image of sort of the far right and all that kind of thing. Obviously, I think it is a little movement, and they actually are called the Black Saltire. There's a guy on Twitter that goes by the name Black Saltire. Yeah,
that's the one he's blocked me, I think.
I'm probably blocked by him as well. I think he's got a block bot.
I just because it was stuff over like the do you remember like one of the early parts of lockdown, you had like them lot out at the border sort of shouting at people coming from England just to go back, and I just put like a tweet just saying, what if you shouted that at that Asian family, you racist? And he just said, what? And then he just blocked me. He just had a little freak out saying, well, we don't know that. It's just shouting at English people. I was like, yeah, but there may be an Asian and a black family that could have heard that. I mean, it was a bit racist of you.
Yeah. I mean, originally I thought the black saltire was some kind of protest against the saltire being included in the Union Jack or something like that. I thought it was, we'll differentiate it, but no, it does just seems to be more of an extreme kind of nationalism, but obviously not the bad kind of nationalism, because it's not bad when they do it.
No, it's not bad. No. I mean, I've done a whole stream on Celt, like the general sort of, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, and Cornish nationalism, and then of course you have nationalism in the Anglo world, and it's treated totally different. And I mean, it's a funny one. It's Cornish now. I mean, like the Welsh one was really funny because they had like a whole like resistance army in the 60s.
Yeah, they thought that they were going to be Ireland too.
Yeah, and it turns down burning down cottages like it's in the Brecons is not exactly like the next step to the great Easter Rising.
No, it's a bit counterproductive burning your own country down, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I mean then they got really serious because they ended up like planting bombs, and I think it was like a young child was severely hurt or killed maybe, and then the public opinion just turned against them. I mean that was an interesting one, and that was an interesting ban because their uniforms were surplus, like military surplus SS uniforms.
All right.
So make of that what you will. The WAF in Welsh SS division. I think probably we'll leave that. I don't know if is anything else you guys want to say?
Eject Scotland.
Fuck the
SNP. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty much.
We just laugh at America at this point, don't we?
Yeah, laugh at America. And the so-called Scottish Americans in Texas.
Yeah,
Scotch Irish.
I've got a 24-hour stream in 2 weeks. I need to fill up the schedule.
Yeah, you got your 24-hour stream coming up.
Saturday it's filled. Well, it's not filled. I still want to see if I can get Sargon on, but everyone I asked who was like close to the channel, I was like, "Oh, save Saturday for them," but they all want to start at 8. No one wants to start at 6, so I'm gonna be alone. But that'll be fine. Well, I'll work it out. Probably get.
I'll probably just jump on and off as time goes on.
That's fair.
Yeah, same. Yeah. If I'm an insomniac anyway, so I can like something insomnia.
I mean, I'll probably start getting the Americans on at 11, and then see where it goes from there. Imagine early hours. I'm not going to get many people, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll work it out. Yeah. So there you go. That's all for charity. Sam, a mad lad.
Tailed, got anything?
Fuck the Scottish Greens as well while I'm at it.
Oh yeah.
Have you got
I don't really have anything to shell. Just my channel, my Twitter, just Tailed Feature on both. So that's it.
Yeah, I'll link both your channels and Twitters into the description after this. And again, I got nothing else to show apart from tomorrow. I'm doing an art stream with Pharaoh on his channel. This is like part 3, so we're going to be going through the 20th century arts. Naturally, because I like messing other people's streams, I've picked artwork by Italian fascists because why not?
You're gonna get John D on that one, are you?
I don't know if he's coming on. I think Panama Hat might be on there with us. I'm not sure who's jumping on. It'd be great if John D was on there. I've just picked out some Italian fascist art, which is like futurism, like real. I mean, there was one that I really wanted to include, but I thought I better not do it with Pharaoh because he'd probably get cross with me. It was just like pictures of Mussolini, but like with like a sort of Picasso-esque of Mussolini. But no, you'll see tomorrow which ones I've got. But they're actually quite interesting. Ones. So that should be quite good.
All right.
That's probably about it. And thank you guys for joining us. And the usual ones in chat, and hello to all the new ones as well that have popped in. And this sort of Blob Watch stuff is weekly, so I should be back with this next Wednesday with Owine and Zen. I don't know, Zen. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's going to be hopping on as well. So I guess we'll be talking about Wales next week and
oh no,
the Geordies.
Was this the Scottish stream? Why'd you get a Welshman on?
Wait, you're not Welsh?
Because I count as two people.
Ah, fair enough. No, I'm not Welsh, but it annoys Owine when I say I'm Welsh.
Yeah.
So I keep saying it.
Yeah, Welsh face. Yeah. So I think. Well, yeah. Today was the Scot. Well, this one was actually sort of laugh at the SNP part 2, but with a Scot. Because last time we did laugh at the SNP, it was with P-Man. He's in Kent, so it wasn't really fair, was it? And that was actually one video I got quite a few dislikes on. So.
Oh dear.
Yeah, maybe posting the link to the stream on the SNP's Twitter page wasn't a good idea. In hindsight, but no, anyway, thank you all for coming on, and I will see you all in next time.
Cheerio,